All right, what's going on, y'all? Hey, my desire here on this channel is to help other men that struggle with what I have for many years. I think more and more knowledge on the internet is getting around this AGP, autogynephilia. It's not a new term. It's been around I think since the 80s, but it's becoming more folks are becoming aware of it, and I think there's good information out there to help understand what it is, how it develops, but not a lot of good information on how to deal with it. Um, and there'll be men that will decide to go a different direction than what I recommend here. But I want to put out a video here that will share with you what I've found to be helpful, what I'm practicing. Like I say, good information out there. I've been watching a lot of videos lately from like Blanchard, Michael Bailey, Ray Williams, Phil Illey. There's a number of others that got good information, and I can agree with them. They know more than I do about the subject of autogynephilia. But as far as how we deal with it, I've just heard a lack of here's what you do as men to live a life where this doesn't encroach upon you or cause you distress, or really get in the way of having a healthy masculine identity. Um, so what I'd like to do here is just put out some things that have I found helpful. I want to share with you that there's an interview that's going to be posted, I think June 2nd, Monday, on a channel. I put a link. A lady interviewed me, and I was real thankful to be able to go on her channel and talk about this issue with her. And so it's a little longer form interview, some background about who I am, and might be interesting. So appreciate if you go check that out. And I was somewhat successful in that interview trying to communicate what I want here in this video, do a little bit more and just put some nuts and bolts, some things that will help maybe other men that struggle with this issue. So um, there's this grind, this pull, this constant sort of pain, I think, that other men that struggle with this could probably relate to. And it's not easy. And over time, it can wear on a man. And the temptation is to just give into it, defer to it, permit it, allow it, just sink down into it. And so my basic posture is one of opposition, resistance, to stand against it, to push back. Um, some folks say, hey, you're repressing. I'll call it repressing. I have control over what I want to do with my body, with my mind, and who I want to be as a man. There's some deep-seated things here that I'm working to root out and redirect. And I've tried to implement every tool that I know of, spiritually, physically, emotionally. Um, I've not arrived, but I am in a better place than I've ever been. And so I got some notes here I'm looking at. So opposition, just opposing it, taking that attitude of I'm not going to allow this to take over. That by itself is not going to be enough, but it has to be our default posture. So my AGP is anatomical in nature. For whatever reason, years and years ago, I just developed just this mind-body map of having a vagina, having female sexual organ that it almost seems like it just kind of, I mean, obviously I don't know what that's like, but there's this just having a dissociation from my manhood and from my physical, my testicles, my penis. That's something that I have to redirect my attention towards establishing a healthy connection. So this erotic target location error that Blanchard talks about, I think is true. That we have, it's an inverted heterosexuality, this auto heterosexuality that Phil Illey writes about. Um, that's true. So we have heterosexual desires that have been turned inward. And in the process, I developed just a disconnection from my manhood. So I'm working to establish new patterns. There's these neural pathways, I think, physically to explain why it just becomes so natural and easy. They're habits. I do liken this AGP to a sort of addiction. So it's just, I'm looking to break this addiction. It's deeply rooted. It's something I don't got to go out to the liquor store and get anything or, go get any drugs to get a hit. But yeah, there's this dopamine release that we've established through just reinforcement, rinse and repeat. So what I'm doing is building new connections. And so just developing increased awareness of my testicles has been helpful. And actually ChatGPT is something I was consulting. I think it's a potentially helpful tool. Also potentially could get us in trouble and give us new ways of new ideas of how we can feed this addiction. Because the politically correct narrative still leans towards let's just embrace this and validate it. And but it did get, as I was like exploring like what I could do, um, developing just awareness of my testicles. The muscle there is called I think cremaster. That muscle, it's not like you have a lot of conscious control over it, but you can lift your testicles when you go into a cold shower and the testicles raise that cremaster muscle. So during the day I'm just becoming, I'm not focused on it every hour, but when I think about it, I might do a few just repetitions of just becoming more in tune, flexing that muscle and releasing. Um, Also some breath work. I don't fully understand this, but I believe we are, there's energy, there's spiritual energy, there's the life force in us, our spirit, our soul. I think in the Greek the word psyche, I'm not sure how to speak Greek, but the spirit, there's like a breath, it's a wind. There's a breath, there's this life force in us that, so I breathe deep into my belly, but also down into my testicles. Just mindfully thinking, and if I'm gonna release that energy back up and out. So that has, I'm not saying any of these are like the silver bullet, like this is the solution, but just I'm trying to take just a multifaceted approach to reconnecting with my masculinity. So physically that has been helpful. Just this constant pushing, pressing outward, hardening myself against it while at the same time relaxing. So there's this tension where, I developed that pseudo just feeling of a vagina that's not real. It's not reality, but my muscles, my mind, my sexual response has been conditioned. So as I am resisting that and pushing outward, and there's some spiritual things that I have a hard time teaching folks. And our Christianity is not just intellectual. There's a spiritual exercise that we have here, and I might try and touch on that, do the best I can, but also relaxing those muscles, and allowing my penis to relax out. AGP might manifest different in other folks' lives. So me with this anatomical AGP, it's very much, there's been a lot of tension and a lot of like just strain and just pent up energy in that location. So I'm trying to release it. I'm trying to not allow that energy to pool. Instead, I'm pushing outward. So other things that can be helpful, cold showers can be helpful. And as men, it's not the solution, but incorporating that has helped me confront discomfort, develop some more mental toughness. And I think there's something about just shaking us out of that body. A lot of the feminine energy in ways that, it's good for women to tap into that flow and their body and through dance or movement. But as a man, I'm developing a warrior mentality where I'm becoming more grounded in my body, but I'm kind of disciplining my body and making it a vessel of strength. So cold showers can help. Strength training, endurance training is good. I've just been doing body weight exercises, pull ups, push ups, burpees, squats. Um, Maybe I'll spend some money on, get on Facebook Marketplace or something, buy some used equipment. But also I run. I might do 2, 3, 4 miles, and just do some sprints. I'm kind of an endurance athlete by nature. I think the farthest I ever run is like 10 miles. But I'm training now. I've done some 5Ks, 10Ks. Looking at maybe doing a half marathon this year. There's no good reason to run 13 miles, but just to say I did. But just that conditioning ourselves helps us to direct our energy in a healthier direction. Where my experience with AGP is it pulls inwardly, and then it gets me in a bind, and then I end up imploding and turning inward. So through nutrition and exercise, my goal is to develop increased testosterone. I've noticed that there's some men who have decided to curtail sexual desire, that they actually do take female hormones or testosterone suppressing medication. I could see where maybe that would help, but it doesn't actually lead, I think, to a healthier position as a man. I'm not going to be the man I need to be if I'm just dragging, lethargic, and have no libido. So having increased testosterone can be a challenge, mainly through sleep, through nutrition, and through lifting heavy things. As you do that, your testosterone is going to go up. You're going to wake up with a morning erection. I could go probably get it tested, my level, but I'm pretty sure I'm in a healthy level. My sexual desire is high. So if we allow the AGP is fueled by sexual desire. So the challenge is now that sexual energy is potentially just going to go down those old familiar roads. So um, the having higher testosterone helps us. It's an asset as a man to have increased energy, mental clarity, focus, drive, ambition. And then I think just our character, our personality, things about us as men come alive when we're firing on all cylinders as men with high testosterone. Um, but that sexual energy is going to have to be expressed. So I, as a married man, thankfully have a wife and I can enjoy sexual intercourse with her. But my sexual desires are higher than hers. Just the way our relationship works, and the way that women through the month are just not always ready to go. So there's gonna be times where I do use masturbation to help me. It's kind of embarrassing talking about this, but it's just I'm just trying to share with you. I'm trying to do everything I can to move forward as a man and not let this AGP cripple me or destroy me. So I would rather masturbate than not express that sexual energy in a good direction and allow it to ultimately, overtake me a couple days later in some fantasy. So I will just put a disclaimer here. I'm not going to say, hey, masturbation is great. It's it's something that I've used mindfully, prayerfully, intentionally. So I don't want to put a stumbling block before you. You can talk to God about it. We've all done it, but I don't think that it's there's gonna be a lot of men preaching like, "Hey, this is a good way to go." It is preferable to enjoy sexual intercourse, but again, so I will prayerfully, intentionally, and especially years ago when I started doing this, my sexual desires were so jacked up, I couldn't even maybe get an erection in the right way, or I couldn't climax without thinking about the wrong things. But over time, we can, I believe, redirect our sexual desires. And I still have this sort of default pull if I allow myself to go back to those old things, but I can find great pleasure as a man, having the allo heterosexuality where I'm focusing outward on another and not just internalizing it. So I personally think about my wife only, just because I believe, hey, Jesus said if a man lusts after a woman in his heart, he's already committed adultery. So if I start thinking about any other woman, I'm already entering into forbidden territory. I'm in good conscience. I can think about my wife. Either we can go do that, later on this evening, or I can do it right now in my mind. And on some level, this is really meant to be kind of, I'm just, what's the word I'm thinking of? But I'm trying to accomplish something here. It's not just like, I'm just trying to have a lot of fun here by myself. Uh, Not thinking of the word, but utilitarian, it's utilitarian in nature. Lately, I've been experimenting with not releasing, just I'm trying to develop better sexual pleasure connection with my manhood, with my penis in a way that's outward. So it might take me when I'm really, usually when I get into this place, I'm already kind of feeling the grind. I'm beat up. So it might take me a minute to direct myself outwards. But as I'm able to connect, a lot more quickly now than I ever have been, and once I can start getting close to climax, I'll stop. There's some people out there that probably practice some sort of sexual tantra and do stuff to try and I'm not trying to do anything crazy here, but I will do a few cycles of starting, stopping to try and just ingrain that pleasure in that direction. And historically, I have allowed myself to release because that does tend to resolve and give me a little break. But lately, I've just let that to go for several few days, and I think that does give me increased strength, and my overall just energy is better. I'm still experimenting with that, but the main thing here is just finding ways to express our masculine sexuality outward in a healthy direction. I will say there's also something I'm also kind of hesitant to share. As a Christian man, I have a background though in Eastern mysticism, Buddhism. There's this concept of chakras in some of those traditions, and I will say that I'm against making that a concentrated part of my spiritual life. But I do think it's possible that these mystics in the Eastern traditions were onto something when talking about chakras as an observation, just like the DSM I see as a very good book to make observations about the world and what we see in different diagnostic criteria. but it doesn't give you a good prescription. And that's what I'm trying to do in this video is like, hey, AGP is a thing. What do you do about it? Not a lot of information about that. There are some people say, hey, we're going to try and just play with it, let it out of the closet once in a while, try and integrate it somehow. Hey, I'm not going to knock anybody for doing that. I just personally have found that the more, if I give it an inch, it wants a mile. So I can't do that. I don't want to give it a mile. So, but I am finding that I'm finding real progress in giving it not an inch. But these chakras, the main ones at the root, sacral, solar plexus, the heart, the throat, um, the third eye, and the crown. I think these are real things. Again, I think that there are satanic powers that have sometimes taken hold of people, and there's dark spiritual energies that we can invite as we make it sort of an idol. So I don't make it a practice of concentrating efforts on opening chakras or concentrating energy or trying to, like these people in the Kundalini trying to bring the energy up through the spine. I think you get yourself in a lot of trouble. But I did run across something that's not widely spoken of in those circles about the direction of the chakra spin. Now, I can't see chakras. Maybe some people can. I can't, but I can sense the direction of the spin in my own body. Like if I concentrate on my root or my solar plexus is very important in the gut, right above the navel. That's a power sort of center. As a man, it's like a center of my will and force as a man. That is rotating in a clockwise manner, outward away from me clockwise. Also my root down into the earth clockwise. The part where this AGP kind of hangs out is in the sacral, and that second one there where the sexual organs are at. That's counterclockwise. Um, I found it as the feminine energy pools, and I just allow myself to kind of get in that passive place. That chakra, the sacral, starts to go clockwise. It starts to, and then it's almost like these chakras are like gears, where the bottom one is going clockwise. They alternate counterclock, counterclock. So as the chakra and the feminine position goes clockwise, then my solar plexus starts to go counterclockwise, and I start to get out of sorts, and my direction as a man starts to falter. So again, disclaimer, please disregard this if God's saying, no, don't listen to that dude. I don't want to do anything. I got to answer to God myself. I'm trying to do this in a good conscience. God knows I'm, I'm doing everything I can, but I have found that this is helpful as I'm just aware of the direction of that. And really that solar plexus is important. The root, I would again caution you not to get into the weeds into some of those traditions because I think they're absolutely wrong. As I practice yoga, that has gotten me in trouble because as I do start to open up that sacral chakra through hip opening extra movements, it causes me trouble. My AGP starts to get inflamed. I start to have more energy pool in there. So I personally, can't work on those hip opening exercises. It's not healthy for me. And I just know about, yoga in general. I think it means to yoke in their language. And that the Hindus that practice it know there's a deeply spiritual exercise. A lot of us here in the West, and there's all sorts of different traditions, are ignorant of the real spiritual power that they're tapping into. So anyhow, a few things here, spiritually, physically, um, we need to, that have been helpful to me. And then finally, there'll be some more teachings. Hopefully I can talk about just being filled with the Spirit of God. We got to be filled up. And then there's truth in the scripture and Romans 6, especially. I think I tried talking about that years ago, but Romans 6 is where it's at. And understanding our position, being dead unto sin, alive unto Christ. I'm going to reckon myself to be dead unto sin because I believe that this AGP is a moral issue. Some people will say it's not a moral issue. Hey, that's between them and God. But it does. It destroys my life. It brings me into a very unhealthy place. And I think it's just a way that my affections and my body is brought into a corrupted position. So, but Romans 6, when this temptation gets hot, and believe me, it gets hot. It gets tough. Then I can stand and say, no, no. In Rome, because I'm dead to sin. I don't have to sin. It don't matter how hot this temptation gets. I do not have to sin. And I don't. And that's a game changer because I can tell you, hey, you don't got to sin, brother. You're like, well, I feel like I got to, or sin feels pretty powerful. But when you really, by faith, take hold of Romans 6, there's a book I've been rereading, The Normal Christian Life by Watchman Nee. I've been trying to encourage some of my brothers to really take hold of that truth, because it's a game changer in standing strong when temptation gets hot. Uh, but hey, in that interview, if you get a chance to check it out, I think I spent a little bit too much time talking about the demonic activity in my life historically. I did communicate a little bit too much of the fear of God. I mean, you can't have too much fear of God, but I really didn't have a chance to really balance that with the love of God, His grace, His peace, His joy, His goodness, kindness, faithfulness. Um, so maybe I have another chance to talk about that. But anyhow, wish you the best. And I'm in this with you. Those of you that are trying to, you know, to be men and not let this have any rule in your life. Thanks for tuning in. Bye bye.